I live in this van, and this is the grossest chore I have to do. With van life, there's a bunch of things you have to do that normal house people don't, and cleaning out my sink is one of them. I usually put off doing this chore because I hate it, but the longer I put it off, the worse it gets because it just starts to smell so bad. So you know how in sinks you either have like a garbage disposal or you just pretend to not care about all the food bits that go down the sink forever when you're cleaning? Yeah, that's not really an option when you live in a van, so even though I have a real sink in my van and I love it, I am careful about food in there, and eventually after a few months of doing dishes, there's just no way to avoid some kind of food buildup and slower drainage in the sink, so I eventually need to clean it out. Plus, I have to take care of my own gray water, and I don't want a bunch of food junk in there. So that means I get the joy of cleaning out my sink every few months, and I always put it off as long as possible. And like I said, the main reason I put it off is because it smells so bad when I'm actually cleaning it. Not so much bad smelling in the van before that. So just imagine like when you're doing dishes and your sink gets clogged, and there's just a bunch of dirty food water that's sitting there in the sink, and you have to reach your hand in the dirty water to pull up the drain. That's basically what this is like, so just imagine that, but sitting there for 6 months and what that must smell like. And in addition to the smell, I basically have to take my sink all the way apart because I want to do it right and make sure it's actually clean and clean each part individually so that it's actually not going to smell bad anymore and work and drain correctly. Which is a pain, but it's fine, I guess. Thankfully for this time, my sister let me clean it and do some other chores while I was at her house, because when you take apart your sink and you only have one in your van house, where else are you going to clean stuff? Usually when I've done this in the past, I'll just find a hose somewhere or an outdoor camp sink, but this worked better. So yeah, I take it all apart and clean everything with soap and hot water, and then I reassemble it and test it to make sure there's no leaks, and then I'm good for another 3 to 6 months depending on how lazy I'm feeling. I post more real van life stuff, so follow if you're into that.